Welcome to a world where magic reigns supreme, and those without it are considered nobodies. Today, we follow the journey of Will, a determined young boy born without magical talent, but with a burning desire to become the strongest magician. Let's dive into his story. Will was born into a world where magic is valued above all else. Unfortunately for him, he lacks any magical skills. Despite this, he enrolls in one of the most prestigious academies, determined to succeed. To overcome his lack of magic, Will hones his sword skills and regularly ventures into high-level dungeons. He faces giant beasts that shoot magic spells at him, which he skillfully dodges. Using his incredible speed and prowess, he slices monsters in half with a single slash. The next morning, Will, exhausted from his dungeon battles, attends class. The professor, Edward, teaches about alchemy and the creation of sulfur for explosives. Noticing Will dozing off, Edward calls on him to demonstrate the process. Will, unprepared, is forced to go to the front of the class. Edward instructs him to produce flames, but despite chanting the spell, not even a small spark emerges. The students laugh, and Edward looks at Will with disgust, questioning how someone so good at theory can utterly fail at practical magic. Humiliated but undeterred, Will resolves to prove everyone wrong. He decides to continue honing his sword skills and faces the dungeon monsters with renewed determination. Each battle makes him stronger, and he vows to become the strongest, despite his lack of magic. Suddenly, a red-haired boy named Sion takes out his wand and confidently points it towards the items on the desk. Using his flame magic, he burns them completely, creating sulfur. Will cowers behind the flames, and Edward scolds them for acting without permission. He then creates a massive crystal of sulfur with his magic, emphasizing that in this world, magic is everything. Edward's words sting. To survive at this academy, students must excel at magic. He bluntly states that those who can't control magic should leave. After class, Sion and his cronies taunt Will, mocking his ability to only kill low-level dungeon monsters. But Cole, Will's childhood friend and classmate, steps in to defend him, telling Sion to back off. Sion, slightly embarrassed but still mocking, says kindness and hard work are useless without magic. As he walks away with his goons, Cole reassures Will not to worry too much. Will, used to the bullying, looks up at the sky, reminiscing about a time when humans were trapped under a layer of darkness, living in fear of evil spirits. Years ago, 5 legendary mages, known as Magicvanders, stood up to these spirits, freeing humanity from darkness and showing them the true sky. This title of Magicvander is now passed down to the most powerful mages. Will recalls the promise he made to his childhood friend Elfie, who inspired him with stories of these legendary mages. Elfie, who showed immense magical talent, rose quickly through the ranks to become the youngest Magicvander, living in the Divine Tower. Will, on the other hand, struggles far below average, clinging to his dream and the promise they made to each other. Later that day, Will goes in to meet Professor W, who ends up screaming at him when he finds out that this Harry Potter knockoff went to level 7 dungeons all alone. Professor W tells Will that one day he will get killed if he keeps this up. Will falls to the ground, apologizes, and asks if he will get credit for it. Professor W sighs and awards him 2 credits for his troubles. While Will is busy celebrating, Professor W asks him if he still hasn't given up on the dream of becoming a Vander. He claims that to have even a small chance of becoming a Vander, Will needs to get admitted to the Upper Institute. To do that, he needs a lot of credits in writing, spell work, and fighting. If he can't use any spells, he'll never get credits for spell work, and no matter how many credits he and the other 2, he will never qualify. Will insists that no matter what, he is going to try. Professor W tells him that first, he will have to graduate, and as far as he knows, Will needs 4 more credits by the end of this week. This shocks Will, who immediately starts searching for monsters that can give him 4 credits. Professor W tells him that there is a monster called Baskerville on the 6th floor, which hasn't been defeated yet. Will immediately hugs his teacher, but unbeknownst to them, Sion overhears this and decides to head to the dungeons himself to kill the monster before Will, so Will gets kicked out of the academy for not having enough credits. Later that evening, Will enters the cave alongside his familiar Kiki and tells her to use her nose to find the monster. But Kiki doesn't seem too keen on it, as the last time Will fought a basilisk, she ended up getting burnt by its breath. On the other side, Sion and his cronies also enter the 6th floor, determined to find the beast before Will so he gets kicked out. One of his underlings with pink hair asks if it's a good idea for just 3 mages to enter the 6th floor, but Sion looks at him angrily, claiming that he is one of the best mages in the class and can deal with it. He thinks angry, racist thoughts while walking and tells his underlings to use their scan magic to find the location of the beast. Suddenly, a huge monster appears and punches the spiky-haired boy so hard that he becomes a pancake on the wall. Sion is beyond shocked, unable to move, while the pink-haired underling starts screaming in terror. Will overhears the scream and immediately runs with the speed of lightning towards the noise, worried about someone getting hurt. He turns a corner and spots Yan on the floor, shooting fire blasts at the monster, which doesn't seem bothered by it at all. Will immediately recognizes the monster as the Sentinel, an extremely strong monster worth 10 credit scores, but wonders what it's doing in this level dungeon. He realizes that Yan's magic is nothing to the monster, as it completely ignores the flame blasts and keeps moving towards the terrified boy on the floor. Will thinks about helping him when he suddenly remembers all the times this person ridiculed him for no reason. This makes him want to shut his eyes and pretend he never saw it. But then he remembers Elfie, who told him he is the kindest person she knew and gifted him a pair of glasses. This reminds him of who he truly is, and he puts on the glasses. Just as the monster raises its weapon to finish the cocky brat once and for all, Will blocks the monster's attack just in time and forces it away to save Yan's life. Back at the academy, Edward enters Professor W's room and tells him to immediately send his familiar into the dungeons, as Sion and his lackeys went inside the 6th floor without permission. Professor W realizes what has happened, but tells Edward not to worry, as Will is also on the same floor. Back in the dungeon, Will clashes with the monster again and again, blocking its attacks and outmaneuvering it. He deals a swift slash to its arm, slicing a finger off. The monster angrily tries to attack, but Will dodges the attack, moving through the air like an eagle. The monster finally catches Will, but he manages to block the blow with his sword. He gets blasted back, after which the monster throws rocks at him, which he slashes through effortlessly. He jumps around the monster and manages to land on its back before stabbing it right through the neck. The monster starts flailing, while Sion is beyond shocked to see Will's capabilities. Edward is also shocked at seeing this, while Professor W claims that Will is an outcast because he has no magic but possesses superhuman strength for a mage. He is as hardy as a dwarf, and his brain is so capable that he learns all the attack patterns of any race just by observing them once. They watch as Will manages to slash off the monster's arm and then calmly walks towards the giant sword on the ground. Will picks up the giant sword effortlessly. Professor W tells Edward that in a world filled with magic and wizards, Will is the only warrior. The monster shoots an energy beam out of its mouth, but Will manages to block it with the giant sword and slashes it at the monster, slicing it into little pieces. The monster falls to the ground, unmoving. Will then walks over and gives Sion his helping hand, who looks still shocked. Edward can't believe his eyes and screams at Professor W that a person without magic can never surpass a magician before storming out of the room. Professor W realizes that Edward is in denial. He knows that the story of Will is going to become legendary as he turns the world upside down by making Wistoria the only place in the world where a wand and a sword meet. If you like this video, make sure to check out this brand new anime about an F-ranked loser who turns out to be the strongest adventurer by killing monsters. And that's the end of this exciting recap. Stay tuned for more thrilling anime stories, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our